Oh, I thought you were going to continue just talking a weekend for 12 hours, but I guess we're back here about halfway through our North American Friday here in the Gauntlet, looking forward towards the Masters Land, which will happen a little bit later. And one more time, I continue to upgrade from Toli to Aggro to Taco now. We're crushing it. How you doing?
I'm back on the desk.
Yeah, you finally got one? Welcome back.
I've honestly had one. I don't know when that's ever going to end. I've had a desk since I started working here.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mentioned hot dogs once 3 years ago, and I still get tweets about it. So, it happens. Either way, what's happening right now is the craziness of the Gauntlet. You know, this is kind of what the people at home kind of always hope for, and it just don't work out like this. But here we have it. Oxygen Supremacy, the challengers, the pro amateurs, the guys that aren't supposed to do it. They're doing it. They take down Flashpoint. They take down number 7 of Noble. They take down number 6 of Allegiance. These are best of 3s, but Oxygen Supremacy just don't need it. They've been able to topple every team in 2 games flat. Now, they'll be going up against In Memory of Gabe, which I think is a little bit fiercer of competition.
I think that IMOG definitely has strong peaks when they play, and when they end up playing to their strongest point, they end up playing super, super well. However, I find that they were a little bit inconsistent. I'm not sure if it had to do with their picks and bans, maybe their quality of practice, but I think this will be the best showing between OS and a much more formidable team.
I agree. I think you can look at Flashpoint and say that, you know, Flashpoint struggled all throughout the season. I think you can look at some of the other teams and say roster changes at the last minute possible. This is the jump point for me. In Memory of Gabe and Soar, and then of course United later on Sunday. Those are the perennial teams that didn't make it to Masters. Got to clarify that one. So I think that it's a different level of competition. Taco, what do you think is going to be the biggest difference here versus some of the other teams we saw Oxygen Supremacy beat earlier?
Well, I really like how Chaos actually brought up the fact that In Memory of Gabe has actually struggled with the drafting, most importantly, throughout this past split that we've seen them. And drafting, I think, is probably Oxygen Supremacy's biggest standing point. They have come out with something different almost every single game, whether it's the jungler or the mid laners. It's just so hard to keep track of, and you never know what it is exactly they're going to dish out. And I think ultimately, combining that with their team chemistry, this is definitely a potent team. The chemistry is the big point for me. I think that in Season 4, we're at a point where the relative level of strength amongst SPL players is generally similar. You have some outliers that are standing above the crowd and some players that lag behind, but in general, a big chunk sits there nice and even, and I think that this team is included in there. What separates some of the higher-end teams from the lower-end teams is the chemistry and camaraderie. You can look at a team like Team Eager. They've been together for a long time, and that's why they're improving. Even look towards a team like United. Their consistency in their roster is why they're so damn successful. Talking to some of the members of the Oxygen Supremacy unit as far as the organization is concerned, not the team. They said, look, these guys are friends inside and outside of Smite. We heard it from Chaos before. We heard it from other people across the way. This is all about how these guys come together and find victories, not just in the game by pushing their buttons and making the spreadsheet all wind up correctly, but also just why these guys are able to lean on each other, have fun, and bring home the W. It's about how they work together. You just had to toss Chaos a couple of compliments there since he's the United rep on the desk. Hey, man, us Long Islanders, we stick together. That's what we do. That's a pretty interesting factor. But, I mean, speaking of sticking together, whether or not Oxygen Supremacy are able to find these last couple of sets to ultimately make their way into the Masters Land, I think this is a team I definitely want to see stick together. Yeah, I mean, this is incredible. DayToRemeber, NeiruMah, Skeeledon, Kiki, and Venenu all really coming together and just creating this megazord of a team. Venenu, I mean, new position, new haircut, same old-fashioned drive. This guy wanted to win last year when he was a rookie. He changed his positions. He still wants to win, and right now, it's looking more and more likely. I would say, if anything, Venenu's honestly been fueled by vendettas to be honest, I mean, we saw him taunting the hell out of Oceans when he picked up any kind of kill on him. Even in the team fights, he was just laughing his life away, spamming that VET as much as possible, completely up in their face. And you can really tell how much he's developed since the very first time we saw his debut in the SPL.
We'll see how it works out. Venenu continuing his reign of terror here in the Gauntlet.
I am Brandon Venenu Casal. I play for Oxygen Supremacy. I play the middle lane for them, and when I'm not playing Smite, after hours of Smite, I'm in school. I'm a high school student. I'm a junior, so 11th grade. I pretty much come home, do some homework, then go to Smite and just play some Smite. Then get in for scrim times, and then I usually just go to sleep. I've been playing for a year now, in technically the professional level. I've been playing Smite for 4 years, just casually and stuff like that. I played a little bit in Season 2 on Risky Behavior for, it was like 2 weeks. We had to face, I forgot the name of the team, but it was New Soar, and we brought them to, we were supposed to get wiped, brought them to best of 5, the 2-2, and we ended up losing. That was my first mid lane experience with 2 weeks, and I just started again over the summer after leaving Allegiance. I transitioned from the casual scene by just playing a bunch of ranked, grinding as much as I can. Got noticed by Incon was the first person that noticed me, and then just got in from there. Incon brought a lot to my career. Like, he showed me like the initial ways to like lead in and like how to play professionally and be professional at a like good level, because he's been in it for a long time. He's been playing. So yeah, I was glad that I could just be the initial person to like learn from him. And like week in brought a lot to me. He, a very good leader, showed me a lot of like leading strats and stuff like that. I view myself as like, I'm like a nice person in the professional scene. Like, I'm very nice with everybody. No one really like hates me. I don't have a hate. But I like to prove myself as much as I can against other players and just be like the best I can at all times. The biggest speed bump for us this season is being consistent. We're like in the Challenger Cup, we're not as consistent, which is bad. And so we're starting to fix it. It's a very relief that we got that over with, and we're glad to be here. We've been scrimming a lot of teams, and we've been doing really well. The biggest thing in my mind for this season is like how much Smite will grow, like how big it will get, how big this esports scene is going to be, how much the teams like get more professional as it goes on and stuff like that, and how much skill get. Like, there's a lot of new players, more new skill coming in. My goal for this year's Smite is to be the next Hungry for More. Start from the bottom, work my way up, or the next Kagakila. Start from the Challenger Cup and work our way up to maybe Worlds.
Some high thoughts out of Venenu, and certainly working out. And I love how he gives praise to the two guys that he just beat real quick. 2 games to nothing. Venenu and his squad, Oxygen Supremacy, had toppled down Allegiance in pretty much dominant fashion. We're talking 15 to 20,000 gold leads, folks, when we're talking about the Challenger team rising through the ranks of the Pro League. Venenu crossed the way, and he's going to be going up against Hurriwind. Like I said earlier, I think that In Memory of Gabe is a significant departure from some of the other teams that we've seen earlier on. Hurriwind and his team, In Memory of Gabe, absolutely a different story.
And Hurriwind's definitely one of those guys who's only recently really started being looked at as a top mid-laning factor for his team. I mean, before in previous seasons and splits, he used to catch a lot of flack, not only from the competitive scene, but just the general public. But now with his recent displays, even though In Memory of Gabe had a rough start to this season, his mechanics have been on point.
Listen, I'm going to be that guy. I have believed in Hurriwind since day one. A lot of people gave him flack, like you said, and you know what? For good reason. And if you look back to last year, he's one to say, yeah, for good reason. Sometimes he used to play over-aggressive or be out of position in an effort to sort of prove the haters wrong. He really had a chip on his shoulder. But I think a combination of that comfort that we talked a lot about, how important comfort is for players, and the fact that he really is just that good, and it's becoming more and more obvious. Hurriwind right now in conversation for one of the, in my opinion, best mids in the world. Chaos, how do you feel when you go up against Hurriwind?
I think Hurriwind is a very, very strong player, especially from ahead. He's mechanically super sound. He ends up doing a lot for his team, and I think he's a major portion of why his team wins. I do believe from behind, and maybe IMOG in general from behind, they tend to fall apart a little bit, and I tend to see a little bit, it's a little weaker on his behalf. However, I think he's a very strong asset to the team and constantly consistent.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I don't think that he gets tilted more so than any other player in the league, but I think that he is definitely, the term emotional player might be overused by broadcasters, but it is absolutely applicable to this mid laner right here. Tyler, as he's known, is just, he's an absolute force of nature. When you get that wind in his sails, he becomes scary, and sometimes with 2 kills, the game can already be over for Hurriwind, and it becomes very nuts. So Oxygen Supremacy, like I said, a very different workhorse here in Memory of Gabe. Get your popcorn out. This might be the set that gets stretched to 3 right away. We see some bands come out, standard across the way. Hunmats, Kabraken, very set in stone. Scotty and Zeus as well, also taken away.
I actually like how Oxygen Supremacy opted to ban away the Scotty immediately, recognizing we're not first pick this time around. We might as well ensure that Memory of Gabe doesn't get a chance to utilize it.
Yeah, just way too strong there. First pick for Memory of Gabe. They can go in a lot of different directions, but they're going to go with the Chang'e. Now, again, this isn't set in stone just yet. Chang'e can play in the mid lane or the jungle or even the solo.
And I feel like solo lane might be a little bit more of a stretch, considering I'm not sure that's really a god that Whalrus wants to try and pocket pick just now. But at the same time, Chang'e anywhere on the map is usually pretty difficult to deal with, considering that she does have the sustain, and immediately the responsiveness from Oxygen Supremacy, Medusa, Sylvanus, and whether that's going to be Medusa in the mid lane or Hunter role, we really can't tell at this point in time.
So Medusa and Sylvanus, like you said, will be that selection. It looks like a duo lane, but you got to keep your mind open. Sylvanus is a polarizing god when you talk to the players. Some players really like him, what he brings to the table as far as healing is concerned. Other players, Europe most notably, kind of just feel like he doesn't do much after the ult. Where do you land, Chaos?
I think Sylvanus is extremely powerful because he's so difficult to kill. I think he has a major amount of CC chain. And the fact that he's also able to pull somebody can turn a fight or just turn a match completely in that team's favor.
We'll see how that one ends up. Hercules banned out by Oxygen Supremacy, one of the stronger choices for Whalrus historically here in our Season 4. Again, and you know, this right here, I love looking at this matchup. I feel like a lot of the members on In Memory of Gabe last year were some of the up-and-comers, and that's exactly what we're seeing out of Oxygen Supremacy. So this is a nice little throwback, almost like fighting your shadow, almost, if you will. So I'm a little excited. Cupid and Sobek, one of the classic dual lanes, if that's where they do decide to go. Osiris banned out for Oxygen Supremacy, and the last ban coming out for In Memory of Gabe.
I feel as though since Susano was locked away, which I'm sure is going to be going to Skeeledon in the jungle role, that's the primary reason we see Gabe opting to ban away these mages, because they don't want to permit, they don't realize, or they don't expect Oxygen Supremacy to try and run a Hunter into that mid role, considering they have a physical jungle.
Yeah, that's definitely going to come into things. And with the Morrigan being the final ban for In Memory of Gabe, option over to Oxygen Supremacy, excuse me. They have their 4th selection here, and we'll see where they go. The Hunter, as we said, is not definitely going to be in that long lane, but now with the Thoth selection, I expect to see Medusa. So Thoth has a very high ban rate, but a deceivingly low win rate in the SPL. What do you think that means? As a mid laner, what's your take on the bird?
The reason for it is his early pressure is very, very weak, especially because he can't clear waves too efficiently. So if a team ends up getting an early lead against him, he doesn't usually have enough damage, especially against sustained comps, to get his way back in, especially because he's so reliant on poke.
Right.
People just sustain through that. However, I think equal or from ahead, his ult is so devastating that it can turn any fight, and he's probably one of the strongest mage, if not the strongest mage from ahead.
You know, one of the problems that Thoth has early game is the fact that you can't just max out one ability. You need that window as well. You need the hieroglyphic to amplify everything else that you're going to do. So you got to get to level 14, level 15 a little bit later than the level 9s that we see some of the other mages a la Scylla really make their business. Ram selected as the 2nd Hunter for In Memory of Gabe. One more selection going to the blue squad this time around to round out their draft that currently consists of Chang'e, Cupid, Sobek, and Ram. A lot of sustain so far.
I really like the option for Gabe to run the double hunter. It's something that they can definitely get away with since they have that Chang'e in the jungle. And now with the Odin pickup, that'll be some decent lockdown potential.
What's the matter? You're shaking your head here, Chaos.
I just don't think there's any synergy with that comp. It seems very similar to the who ran Odin earlier today.
Yeah, that was Uzi.
Uzi, right.
Yep.
It seemed like there was just no synergy with it, and I feel the same goes for this, whereas if you look at Oxygen Supremacy, like they have so many options to play the match, so many options to get in.
Actually, it's really funny. It wasn't Uzi that played Odin. It was Wubbin that played Odin, despite the fact that those players kind of... We're going too deep, but it's funny because Sobek and Odin were the two selections when Noble chose to bring out the Odin, and he kind of just 6-6-7'd it. Did not make an impact like he wanted to. Last selection for Oxygen Supremacy. Where are they going here?
With this, I feel like the boundaries are kind of endless, considering that you already have the Hercules and the Osiris banned away. You know that you're probably going to be facing up. I wouldn't be surprised if it would be a Sobek in that solo lane even, as opposed to the Odin solo, because Odin does have a little bit of a tougher time in that solo lane, and I feel as though Whalrus would prefer to play the Sobek, which is probably what Oxygen Supremacy are anticipating. So Kiki going with the Xing 10, we've seen him run it earlier today, and personally, I really like both of these drafts.
I like them both so far. Kind of hoped that Kiki was going to go weird, but real quick, one word each. Oxygen Supremacy in Memory of Gabe. Who wins?
Oxygen Supremacy.
I'll play Devil's Advocate for once, and I like Gabe's draft.
Really?
I'll play Devil's Advocate.
I got to go with Chaos. I think that there's just a lot of good characters, not a lot of working together on the side of In Memory of Gabe. But if any team can make it happen, it'll be In Memory of Gabe. A significant step up in competition. Stay to your seats. We're going right to the game. It's going to be Totally and Hindu Man on the horn.
Thanks so much, analysts. And now we're into hour 5 for Oxygen, playing straight back-to-back smite. The only breaks they've really had, Totally, is to like wait for the other team to set up and then go straight back in and keep stomping.
Well, they get a chance to walk around, stretch their legs, use the bathroom whenever they need to. So even though they've been playing for 5 hours straight, heading into their 7th game thus far today in the North American Gauntlet, they're looking still very strong, and they're riding off a huge high momentum right now.
And that's the one thing here. They are on fire. We've talked about that a little bit, but that's due to what has happened here. If you get off to a good start, you've warmed up on the stage, You win your first set, you're warmed up for the next team. The other team's going to come in cold and try and warm up every single time.
And that's the big difference between these two teams. One team has been able to look at all 6 previous games from Oxygen Supremacy, but the thing is, they've been running such different compositions and strategies that, despite all the homework and studying you might do on this one Challenger Circuit team, you might not necessarily know what you're going to be getting into once you start your own match against them.
Well, you heard Chaos say on the desk, he wasn't too happy with Memory of Gabe's draft because he didn't really feel like it had too much synergy here, Totally, overall. I agree with him to an extent there, but it depends how they're going to play with the Odin and Sobek the same way we were talking about in the last set when Noble used the same comp.
I just feel like it's going to be so much easier for Skeeledon to look for these initiations in the early game here compared to Cynosure playing the Chang'e. The team fight is going to be interesting because at one point you have double sustain coming out of Hurriwind and Cynosure, but at the same time you're also going to have this Sylvanus Wisps, but the anti-healing will be evident for IMOG between this Odin and Sobek.
And will it be Cupid in the mid lane, joined by Eonic here up against NeiruMah and Venenu. Venenu and NeiruMah had fantastic performances so far, and Eonic's taken a lot of the pressure early on, but they have the wave clear advantage so far.
The question is what they're going to do off of this. They're going to rotate towards the right side jungle. Fire Giant Elementals is available, as well as the right side and mid Harpies, but it seems that Oxygen Supremacy, despite having solo lane pressure, they're not going to rotate to contest those right side mids. Instead, they're just going to invade the blue.
Bit of a safer option there as well from Memory of Gabe, just to go for the right and Harpies. They could have looked towards the speed, but with solo lane being 2v1, there was a chance for a 4-man collapse if they went for that speed buff. Instead, they'll take the small wins, but Oxygen at the same time have taken the blue, and now they're stealing the speed.
The speed buff and the blue being stripped away this early on gives them a slight edge here, especially considering the fact that they can go to their own speed in blue at a much quicker rate than the Cynosure can on the Chang'e. More mobility on the side of the Susano here with his passive. Now granted, Chang'e has a little bit of mobility increase as well, but you're not really using your abilities while you're in the jungle because you always have to be conservative with your mana.
Now as you can see, Memory of Gabe have pretty much focused on the left-hand side side of the map here managed to control most of this, where Oxygen in more investment into the right-hand side. So that's why the speeds and the blues have been taken away here from Memory of Gabe. And Whalrus on the Odin is just going to have to play very safe for the time being.
It makes sense to try to shut down DayToRemeber because of how strong he's been so far in the past 6 games, but at the same time, shutting down Whalrus is a nice strategy from Oxygen Supremacy because of the fact that you don't want this Odin rotating into the team fights to really start shutting down your carries in that cage.
And Cynosure on the left-hand side here is the jungler for Memory of Gabe. Came across from the console scene last year, had a fantastic performance in the mid lane, just like some of his other brothers, Ozzy, Chapo, they came across from console too, but he finds himself a Memory of Gabe who haven't had the worst of seasons so far.
Having a lot of flexibility to be able to bounce between console and then into the SPL at such a high level too. Now granted, he used to be a PC jungler before he joined the console scene, so he's been flip-flopping all around and making his presence known so far in Season 4.
And both teams have a decent amount of setup here. Obviously, Whalrus is going to have to pretty much bird bomb in or blink to get that ring off to initiate. But that's pretty effective, this Odin cage, against the composition that Oxygen have drafted here.
A great attempt by Skeeledon trying to find Cupid there, but unfortunately going to miss the mark on that pull. Whalrus still struggling to hit level 5 in that solo lane. It's going to be important for him to try to start making these rotations before the second relics come online from Oxygen, and more than likely we'll see probably NeiruMah go for that Phantom just like he did in the set against Noble.
I do like how Skeeledon sat in the solo lane to begin with here, because Odin in the early game against the Xing 10 will control that lane with the wave clear advantage, but getting Kiki to level 5 before the Odin gives him that level advantage, which is allowing him to pressure the wave a little bit more.
Knowing the fact that Skeeledon was going to be in that lane with Kiki, Kiki elects to go for a more aggressive option in the starter item selection. Instead of going for the typical Mark of the Vanguard start, going for the Hourglass just to make sure he has more spam ability in the lane, get off a lot of furious roars, do a lot of damage over time, start slowly whittling Whalrus away to allow these gank attempts by Skeeledon to be that much more impactful.
Well, right-hand side, you can see Skeeledon looking for the blue and the speed buff, but Memory of Gabe want to focus the left once more. The left harpy's about to spawn now. They were looking for a pick if they could find it. Instead, Kiki has now rotated in, looking for pressure onto Cynosure. Gonna force the ult. The waxing moon was absorbed by Kiki. Cynosure's in trouble. The Aegis is buying him a moment, but Skeely picks him up. DayToRemeber on the back, though. The snipes are here from Snoopy.
Finding two. Third one not on the mark, but the rest of his team is there. Through the wall. Astral Arrow is great, but Hurriwind caught in an awkward spot. He's going to get taken down as well.
Well, the fight's still going here. Eonic's forced to use the meditation there. Snoopy's going to be pulled into danger, and Snoopy's isolated and alone. Bird bomb from Whalrus. Hits 4 for a chunk of damage. He claims 1. That's a passive stack. He claims 2. That's a passive stack. He's going to pick up Skeely as well, potentially, but there's not enough damage left over from his Bluestone. 3-2 after 1 engagement.
What a crazy set of circumstances. 3-for-2 at the end of the day. DayToRemeber reviving at the end. Snoopy barely able to escape that one. Clutch rotation from Mark Maloney, hitting all 4 members with that bird bomb, making his impact really known despite the rotation from Skeeledon early on, trying to shut down this Odin in the soul lane.
And Snoopy actually picking up the kill onto DayToRemeber. That was so important to be able to pick him off there, totally. The 3 snipes hit from Snoopy, but just wasn't enough. Luckily enough, he had the arrows available to hit through the wall and get himself a lead in this lane.
Eonic was doing a good job, giving him the vision that Snoopy needed to, because as he landed down from his ultimate, he didn't really could tell where the opposition was. So relying on the positioning of his own teammates just to confirm some more kills. But despite all that 3-for-2, neither team really gets the benefit of any objective afterwards still. So it's still a very even game at this point.
For the time in, it is. Both solo lanes really got involved in that fight. Kiki came over early with the rotation from the teleport, managed to get a kill and assist, and then Whalrus, for all intents and purposes, he was very, very late to that fight, but he got a lot of free tower damage off, lost a couple of minions there for Kiki, and then managed to pick up 2 kills.
Which is why we see the difference of this teleport situation. 140 seconds on the side of Whalrus, about 70 on the side of Kiki. So having that available means that you'll see one person there earlier on, the other person's going to have to walk by, but at the same time, you're going to be able to squeeze in a wave before your rotation. And as long as your own team can survive long enough, that later rotation
rotation will be more devastating.
Well, Snoopy here in the duo lane has picked up the Devourer's Gauntlet, starting to stack that up nicely for himself. That kill really helped him out to begin with, just to get that going. And he is up against DayToRemeber, who's having a fantastic day so far, going for the Transcendence option, which we kind of used to see.
This is something that we see before in Season 3 Hunters, going for lifesteal on the Devourer's Gauntlets versus Transcendence a lot on these physical, high damage ability Hunters. And Medusa has been one of these guys that's been flexed in between middle and Hunter quite a lot. It makes sense to try to rush this Transcendence just to get that power spike and the mana and the MP5 regen. But at the same time, Venenu playing the top. It's been about 5 games ago since he's played this character. He's been flip-flopping between Chiron, Thoth, doing a lot of work in a lot of different roles specifically, feeling very confident to the point that he's even rushed to do more.
Yeah, stacking items for the Hunters. Well, stacking item for Venenu here. The damage output from Thoth will be a little bit higher because of this. Skill is here to try and contest these elementals. Has to be careful due to the heart bomb coming out from Hurriwind. But Hurriwind's under pressure from Kiki, who's having a fantastic tournament too. Eonic's in a bit of trouble there on the right-hand side, but still has Lurk in the Waters available. Whalrus gets the big old ring down, and Skeeledon doesn't have an answer to that. Neither does NeiruMah. 2 kills the way of Memory of Gabe, and they just pulled Venenu as well.
Venenu was beezing a little too late, though. Whalrus is not done chasing here. He recognizes just how much damage he's doing. All the passive stacks gives him the mobility that he needs to be able to catch up. Every time a god dies on the battlefield, you're getting that extra mobility on this Odin, so it makes it that much easier.
And it's every time Kiki seems to be getting there first, forcing a fight, trying to make something happen. But when Whalrus shows up, people just explode.
Absolutely. Skeeledon was forced to retreat after getting hit by that heart bomb from Hurriwind, and without the presence from Skeeledon, that teamfight was destined to fail from the start for Oxygen Supremacy.
Well, Cynosure will combine with Hurriwind here to now get his second speed buff of the game. Pick that one up for himself as well. Working towards that shield of regrowth more than likely that you start to see quite often on the Chang'es. The extra mobility is very useful, but not just that, it's the cooldown reduction as well.
Especially how low of a cooldown her heal is. Even without cooldown reduction, to be able to get that kind of mobility makes her much more of a utility style mage. Coming from the jungle role allows your other positions to be a little bit more damage orientated, which is why we see this Cupid here trying to synergize more. Whenever you have a magical god in that jungle role, you're going to have that mid hunter.
And with this game so far, 8 kills in less than 9 minutes. The big issue is, though, the gold is relatively even between the two teams. Neither has really found an advantage off these kills to start to get some of these major objectives, like the Gold Fury.
Once we start seeing some of these gods get higher level, the respawn timers will be a little bit longer, and then there's going to be more leeway for either of these teams that got the advantage from that last team fight to start going for some of these objectives, like a tower or a Gold Fury.
Well, Snoopy's back to the left-hand side now. Full boots online, and the Transcendence finally finished for DayToRemeber here. He did go for the boots first of all, needed that extra mobility and the extra power that comes with the Warrior Tabby, but now stacking that Transcendence, the power spike will start to come through for one of the members of Oxygen at least.
Not having sustain options though in the form of the enhance, but oh, nice little pull onto Hurriwind, gonna force out the purification bead, so a huge window of opportunity.
I've not seen a Sylvanus be played like this for a long time, where he's doing raw pulls with no setup potential, and he's surprising multiple people over and over again. That's like the 5th or 6th one in the mid lane that has just been a raw pull totally over the course of the day that has found a mark.
Absolutely. This support player, NeiruMah, has been making so much of an impact off of his first land, but Snoopy, though he's getting aggressed on, DayToRemeber is definitely feeling himself, killing him before he goes in the air.
Petrify was good. Snoopy hung around there thinking he could box too, especially when Skeeledon dipped out. He was like, all right, remember, I can fight you, but don't forget how much damage Lacerate can do. And follow that by a Petrify, jobs are good, and Snoopy falls down.
That Transcendence, the damage was available, augmenting both of his abilities to be able to confirm that kill. And you're not going to be life-stealing whenever you're going to be in that sky, channeling your ability. So great recognition. 2v1ing Snoopy. Small window to be able to get DayToRemeber slightly ahead. Sure. Now hitting level 12, he's going to have that second relic available, hitting the Aegis, and has more time to stack up that Transcendence.
But I don't think we see that happen ever again, Tolly. Snoopy, you know, he took a 2v1, quite confident in himself, but after seeing what just happened there, I think he'll play a little bit more passive than we used to see. And that was Snoopy really testing the waters and realizing, like everybody else has here today who have already taken on Oxygen, they're really here to play.
Despite taking a 1v2 fight, sometimes you always have to take into consideration where the lane is positioned, the minions in that lane. But the problem is, that's going to benefit DayToRemeber. If the minions are in the lane, she's going to be able to easily proc her second ability off of that wave to hit Snoopy as well. And then once those archers are cleared, dashing confirmed onto Snoopy.
Well, Whalrus 4-0-1. Looks like he's working towards the breastplate of Valor next to go with the Pestilence. He has already picked up Pestilence there for the extra magical protection, but also the anti-heal. We won't talk about the healing too much for the time being, but it will start to develop as Sylvanus stays in this game.
Trying to make something happen around this Gold Fury. Both teams jostling for position just for warding. Seems that Oxygen has more of an advantage there, having that little triple ward around the mid-harpies, top and bottom of that Gold Fury.
Don't think Snoopy recognizes NeiruMah was around that corner there. He does have a ward down, but he's sat far enough back for now. NeiruMah will walk around the corner. Snoopy should see this on his minimap if he's looking. The roll, the beads to avoid the ultimate, very important, but he won't avoid the pull! Snoopy's gonna go at the sky. The dot damage could be enough. He might just tick to death, and if he doesn't, when he lands, good night, sweet prince. Your day's over.
I like what Snoopy tried to do. He tried to walk forward to avoid some abilities and in-hands, and then he was going to probably roll backwards, but unfortunately the timing and the cooldowns not in his favor. Great play yet again from OS. Just a 2v1, taking advantage of Snoopy. Last time it was Skeeledon. This time around it's NeiruMah on the Sylvanus. That's just been on point, forcing the purification beads off of the root and ulti combination, but guess what? He can also hit his pulls without any setup.
Well, the worst thing is as well is look at DayToRemeber's level now. 14 to Snoopy's 12. 2-level lead for a Hunter, and a Hunter that comes online just that little bit quicker than a Rama will, although Rama is a little bit better towards the late game.
Especially now with this red buff for about 2 minutes or so, having this physical power with a Transcendence, this could be an opportunity now where DayToRemeber could potentially 1v1 Snoopy, making his life even harder.
We'll see what happens as this one continues. Now, Gold Fury still not looked at by either team. A little bit of a look from Oxygen a little bit earlier on, but for now, he's going to hold position, wait for the opportunity. These kills are making small impacts just in experience, not in actual gold game.
Snoopy, though, he's going to get caught out just to poke out by Snoopy, but they're not done yet, forcing out another relic. Look at all that damage.
But look what Skeeledon did there. He full committed, but once all his abilities on cooldown, he didn't continue to chase Snoopy. He was happy with the Aegis, knowing that the beads are down and the ult, but Remember's being pulled here a little bit early. Heart Bomb didn't really hit from Hurriwind there onto the target. It was after he ended up hitting NeiruMah, but Skeely's ult is down, and Skeely's on the front line alone, split from his team as Whalrus will make sure the team is completely split with that fantastic ring of Bird Bomb.
The Bird Bomb did a lot of damage. NeiruMah, the first victim. The snipes are connecting into that backline. Kiki not finding anybody in that pull. Kiki having to go back in that tier 1 tower. Hurriwind getting traded for NeiruMah, favoring OS quite heavily.
Well, he's favoring him for now, but the Gold Fury has been started by Memory of Gabe now. Hurriwind being dead means they're not going to have any extra sustain other than Cynosure here. Snoopy and Eonic juggling it around. Whalrus still full health, not choosing to tank, more than likely offering the Bird Bomb option. Venenu's looking for a steal if he can find it, but Memory of Gabe will clean up the Gold Fury. Oxygen just have to surrender it.
I like the idea that Kiki had there, just trying to poke out everyone from Gabe a little bit, seeing if he could at least find a kill. And if that knockup was a little bit later, maybe by half a second or so, that could have easily spilled somebody's doom and demise. But just like this, Portal Demon going to get answered, responded instantly.
And Skeeledon also farmed away from the right-hand side in solo just to give him some extra experience, then rotates to the Portal Demon after the rest of Oxygen recognize everybody in Gabe backed after the Gold Fury.
There was just no timing for anyone from Gabe to truly contest that objective, mitigating a lot of the gold just gained by Gabe with that 150 gold per player. Very even game heading into this 15-minute mark. Neither team really truly gaining an advantage over another.
Not right now, that's for sure. I mean, the Gold Fury going to Gabe just keeps things even, if anything else, for the time being. Oxygen, they've been around not so long in the Challenger circuit, but they're looking to poke their head back into the SPL, where Memory of Gabe, they were touted totally at the start of this year as being a potential super team in North America. They made it mid-table so far.
Absolutely. They had a great start to the beginning, but then they also had some weaker opponents to start off. Once they started facing the likes of Team Eager and Luminosity, things started to look a little bit more grim and doom for the side of the Borg Dogs. But either way, despite being in the Challenger circuit for so long, they're also still around here today for so long. Their 7th game, and they're still playing fantastically. Stamina is definitely not an issue for OS.
Well, not so far, but we'll see if that can continue on, because if they do manage to beat out Memory of Gabe here, they've still got Saw left to face. And I think so. If you were Saw right now and you were watching this, who would you rather favor here?
Honestly, it depends on who you've prepared for more on. Like, if I'm Sore, I would want Memory of Gabe because at this point, there's just too much momentum on OS. And I'm more than positive that Sore did not look at any tapes against Oxygen Supremacy.
Well, they've had plenty of tape to watch today so far. That's the one benefit they do have. Been able to watch from the studio all day and see every game Oxygen have been a part of.
But the thing is, every game has been different. There's not a consistent strategy, realistically, that OS has been running, except for Double Hunter. But the thing is, they're running 2 different Double Hunters every single time. Whatever is open, whether it's Medusa, Scotty, Cupid, Chiron even, it's just like, take your pick of the litter.
Now, this is North America, and the North American land meta is developing. Europe tomorrow, maybe a completely different kettle of fish. And then you look towards Sunday, and that's when we get international play, and how these 2 metas will end up meeting, and which one comes out on top.
And the more important thing is that wild card, NA versus EU, is going to be a best of one. So that is the time to get really spicy, to make things very complicated for the enemy.
Nice pulling mid lane from Skeeledon to Hurriwind, who will just dash away back to the safety of his support and his jungler into the safety where Whalrus was waiting as well. No real opportunity right now for either team to look for an advantage because there's nothing to really get objectively.
DayToRemeber could be looking for a boxing fight, but Snoopy having the red buff could look to win this exchange.
Look around his back. Look at his back. Guess who's coming round again? It's Skeeledon, and Snoopy does not know it's here. But Skeeledon's not going to go.
No,
Skeeledon's just going to back.
Backing because I think he might have spotted out the rotation from Eonic in that mid lane going to the left side jungle, but instead having to defend the tier 1 mid tower. All the sustain between Hurriwind's hearts and just the dancing from Cynosure, keeping everybody topped off from Gabe to be able to really put pressure on this tier 1 mid tower, already at about half health.
Not too sure if that was a call out from DayToRemeber there onto Skeeledon saying, don't gank, I'm not prepared for a gank right now. Maybe he had no abilities available. It would look very awkward to see Skeely back there.
Could have been the red buff that deterred him from wanting to take that fight. There's a lot of damage from a Hunter, especially level 15 Rama. Having that steroid attack speed maxed out at this point, making it too difficult to truly commit onto that Hunter.
Well, why Oxygen are investing in the red buff, Memory of Gabe is stealing away Oxygen's speed buff on the right-hand side. They'll give that one over to Eonic this time, who picks that up. Not sure if intentional or not, but giving Sobek speed isn't all doom and gloom. It gets him in range for those plucks a little bit more often.
Having that initiation, the pull, is going to be the determining factor of whether there's going to be a pick or not for the Memory of Gabe, and it hasn't been too advantageous for them for looking for these picks. They're relying on the cages more than anything else out of Whalrus, not necessarily Eonic's plucks.
And talking about the cages, the fact that Whalrus has 5 kills here, is that a detriment to Memory of Gabe in the grand scheme of things? Just because as you get to the late game, Odin's just going to be a ringer.
Yes, at this point, you have to be looking to still look for these team fights while you have the advantage on your Odin. Having the Pestilence, having the Breastplate of Valor, and now level 18 here, the highest level of the game, having the Blink to make this impact more known. You have to ride off of the momentum on this Odin, now finishing off the Spirit's Road.
Well, NeiruMah just went back to base on Sylvanus as well after hitting level 12. He's picked up a Phantom just to make sure they can at least deal with one of every other ring, pretty much, they can deal with the cooldown of that.
It's about 2 or 3 rings that you have to wait out before your Phantom cooldown will be available. Gold Fury about half health. Eonic getting pulled, taking a lot of poke though, but he's not done. He wants to commit.
He's going to commit because Whalrus is following up, and NeiruMah stopped in the cage for now, but the Phantom comes into play. Petrify from DayToRemeber will help out his support player who picks up Eonic, but Snoopy also picked up NeiruMah. Now on the front side is Kiki, and he's going to get beat, and the ultimate out of Snoopy too. Whalrus in the sky. Whalrus going to fall down to Skeeledon, I should say, but Snoopy just landed, and Venenu was there to clean up crew.
Same exact story compared to the set against Noble. NeiruMah taking the fall, but the rest of his team taking advantage. Finding 3 picks, getting the Gold Fury. Not done yet, though. Could potentially look for an offensive dash, but Venenu playing really carefully here, instead electing to position himself towards that Portal Demon.
Totally, their team, Oxygen's team fights are just so good right now. Like, every team fight, these are professional SPL teams that play in week in, week out, and they're going 3-1, 4-1 in these engagements.
They're playing the waiting game here, and every team is taking the bite. Memory of Gabe really wanted to find somebody out of position. We saw just how aggressive Eonic was positioned in that front line despite taking all that damage. Now, that's not playing towards the strengths of Memory of Gabe's composition between this Chang'e and Cupid. You want to be able to poke, reset, heal, and then re-engage, but the Sobek was just out of that team fight instantly.
Well, with the Portal Demon going the way of Oxygen as well, they're starting to group up towards the mid lane here. Plenty of sentry ward coverage around the Fire Giant now. 5 members strong, and in we go for the tier 1.
Eonic in a world of hurt. He
Dead.
gets flipped and flopped instantly. Tier 1 gets melted as well. 5-on-4 for another 30 seconds, and I don't see how Memory of Gabe can hold this without one player.
Well, let's have a listen to Oxygen as they look for the tier 2 tower.
Nice try, nice try.
Be careful of the cage. He has
This
blink.
way,
He has
this
blink.
way. Listen, I'm gonna blink in. Don't get Chang'e ulted. That's the only way they win this. They get.
I'm looking at the. Okay, the right bus is down. I'm
Come
coming.
back.
Coming. I know.
Nice.
Just hit the tower. Hit the tower. Hit the tower.
Hit tower.
That zone called Cupid. All.
Nice job. Nice job. He gets those.
Nice
Back
job.
up, back up.
Take their speed. Take their speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you split. That's
We have to go low. We have to
Okay,
go low.
that's fine. That's
You
fine.
guys are okay though.
You guys can burn that.
Okay, after we back, guys, let's go for this.
Let me back
Except
here,
for that.
I need a
Let me
Yeah.
take this. Let me take this.
I'm running, dude.
Yeah,
Just
blue
run.
tier
Just
now.
run.
We're fine. We're fine. I have Titans after this wave. Can I get this wave solo?
Oh
Yeah. Just solo. It's fucking huge.
We're up a lot.
Actually, can I solo blue? I have Ratatouille.
Oh
yeah,
yeah, 100%.
Fuck sure, dude. Baby.
We got to listen to Oxygen's comms there, but you can see how the strategy seems to be here, Tolly. It's Kiki on zone duty every single day, and then the team is making the correct calls most of the time. Let's focus the tower. Listen, we don't have to worry about anybody else. Kiki's doing the work. They talked about the Titan's Bane is going to be finished for DayToRemeber, and they also want to get this tier 2 on the left-hand side has been the call. Sorry, tier 1, I should say, on the left-hand side has been the call next.
Slow, calculating, and methodical is the strategy that Oxygen Supremacy have been implementing in all of their games. And Memory of Gabe, they might be the 4th victim here in the North American Gauntlet if they don't turn this around quickly. They're already down about 7,000 gold and the same amount of experience. And this is the point in time where the Hunters get online a little bit harder in late game, where Fire Giant is going to be that late game objective contestant.
Deja vu, though, Anatoly. I mean, every single time we've seen these games today out of Oxygen, it's been one team fight of the Gold Fury, where they've claimed 3 or 4 lives, taken the Gold Fury, and then the swing happens on the graphs every game.
It just seems that every team is playing into the cards out of OS, and there's no
Snoopy's in trouble.
stopping the momentum here. Yet again, Skeeledon finding the pull, and no response. Snoopy left alone yet again.
And this should be a tier 1 tower on the left-hand side now. They've got minions coming along with them. Eonic's on the rotation, not getting much support from Cynosure and Hurriwind from the mid lane. Tier 1 on the left will fall for free.
And the thing was, finding this pick onto Snoopy not only gives them a 5-on-4 for OS, but they didn't have to commit any ultimates to that kill.
And now they're going to look for a tier 2 as well. Look at where Kiki is, flanking around the back once more. And you can see the Memory of Gabe have choose to surrender. But without Snoopy there, they don't feel confident in taking a 4v5. And rightly so.
This gives 10,000 of a goal lead to OS. They are just running away with this game. Like I mentioned before on the desk earlier on, these games have been really quick, I would say, out of OS. 27 minutes or less. The game was already decided at one point or another.
I think Oxygen Supremacy, as the days gone on, though, is they've found a rhythm now. They know what they need to do over and over again, and they just rinse, repeat. And no team is really coming up with an answer to what they've been doing.
Fire Giant has been started, but it's been Lee's trying to find the knockup, but the Typhoon not on the mark. Mesmerized onto
Great
3.
ring.
Whalrus blinking in.
Petrify out from DayToRemeber, but that's absorbed. Bird Bomb, different story. Eonic gets 1. Venenu will clear up Hurriwind, however, Snoopy gets involved with the snipes. And the 3rd one will bring down DayToRemeber. This is a 2 for 2 so far, but Cynosure is isolated on the right-hand side, and they're not giving chase for him just yet.
He's so fast with that shield of regrow, but there's a tier 1 tower in your way, buddy. Nowhere for him to go. 3 for 2 now. OS can look at their sights at this Fire Giant.
But this is a dance from Memory of Gabe to make sure they can't do the Fire Giant. Let's be honest, with a Sylvanus, a Xing 10, and a Thoth, you're not going to go through that Fire Giant very quick.
No, not necessarily. It could be a baiting tactic, potentially trying to catch either Snoopy or Whalrus out of position. And if you can have that staggered death, whether it's one or the other, doesn't matter which, now you have another advantage as the rest of your teammates are respawning, and then you can look for these objectives.
And you talk about respawning, the Gold Fury has come up, as is the Portal Demon any moment now as well, which means you've got a call to make. Do we go for the gold? Do we look for the oracles as well? Or do we invest more towards the Portal Demon once more?
The damage that we just saw in that team fight recap has basically been double every single team fight in OS's favor, and we're looking at some of these itemization choices. I'm specifically looking at Venenu here. 50 stack Doom Orb, he has the Rod of Tahuti, he has the Spear of Desolation, and this is a late game top that I personally want to be be in the same game against.
Well, it looks like he's going to go for the Soul Reaver right now. I mean, he could go for Book of Thoth, but it's very late in the day to be looking at that. You should be looking for the Soul Reaver here, more than likely next, and then for more penetration.
You're definitely looking for the burst potential if you're playing Thoth, that one-shot capabilities, especially with that final judgment, hitting from a distance. There's a lot of setup here between Skeeledon, Kiki, and NeiruMah, playing these gods between the Xing, Susano, Sylvanus. Just take your pick. One person can go in and the other can just peel.
It's normally you look at a team, Toli, and with the amount of games we've seen of Oxygen Supremacy today, you'll be able to identify who is the real carry of this team, who's overperforming. It's the whole team.
I couldn't.
It's the whole team.
I couldn't tell you even if you paid me, honestly, you know, man. Like, everybody has been pulling their own weight out of OS. And Memory of Gabe, though, they're trying to get the portal
zone duty, looking to secure that for his team. Won't happen, however. The zone is good enough. Memory of Gabe will secure the portal demon. That buys him a window once again, just to relax and try and catch up.
Gold Fear is still available, and that's exactly where DayToRemeber is going. But by doing so, everyone recognizes this from Imog.
Whalrus is going to get a nice ring down onto Venenu, but Venenu ages his out a lot of damage. Great ultimate from NeiruMah! All 5 members of Memory of Gabe go into the air, but they don't really care too much, as now they're looking for a second kill. Snoopy picks up NeiruMah as well. Oxygen get the Gold Fury and only have 3 members left standing.
Gabe taking advantage of the Gold Fury greed out of OS. Now trying to go for this Phoenix potentially here. They're going to rush this down while the Fire Giants has been started.
Well, this is a base race. Fire Giant versus Phoenix in mid. Is the Phoenix in mid worth the Fire Giant, Toli?
Absolutely not. Despite having all 5 members of your team now, it's going to delay your push because there's 6 towers you have to go through if you're a Memory of Gabe, but your left side Phoenix is exposed. So if you overcommit in the mid or the right-hand side, we could even see OS try to backdoor that left side Phoenix.
The decision-making so far from Oxygen seems to be pretty solid. They do lose the team fight, but they take the right option.
So this is the most kind of problems that they've had so far all today, honestly. And they've responded pretty well. Despite knowing the fact that they were going to lose Fire Giant, they get one of the greatest objectives you can get next to the Fire Giant, going for the Phoenix. Now exposing the Titan a little bit, ever so slightly. Memory of Gabe always have to have that thought lingering in the back of their mind whether or not that left side Phoenix will get targeted.
We'll see if they do go for that left side. Right now, though, Memory of Gabe will use the Fire Giant to take a tier 1 in the mid lane, answer back a little bit more of that gold that Oxygen is still in favor with. Over to the right, more than likely next for the speed and blue of their own, and maybe even the junglers and the tier 1 as well.
And because of the fire wave flooding down that mid lane, it makes it more difficult for Memory of Gabe to truly commit under that tier 2 tower. Instead, this is more of a delayed approach that they're trying to take to get back into this game. They're only down about 7,000 to 8,000 gold at the 28-minute mark, which is still quite a lot of gold here in terms of trying to maximize and get that 6 item slot complete, but they're still in it in terms of the levels.
You're talking about 11, 12, 1,300 gold extra for every single player on the side of Oxygen right now, which is about a tier 2 item so far.
At this point, it's still very impactful, where you have to consider whether or not you want to take a team fight in the first place, but it doesn't seem that Memory of Gabe are too worried here. They're still going to be able to ride down the mid lane here. Everybody's still trying to go for this tier 2 tower.
Blink available for Whalrus here. He's going to catch KikiSoCheeky in the jungle, and KikiSoCheeky will cheekily get rid of the ward there and now look to wrap in. Oxygen really just looking to position for defense here. They don't necessarily want to fight a Fire Giant team that is Memory of Gabe.
By pushing down this mid lane, they don't have to worry about this fire waves flooding down that exposed Titan room. Eonic trying to look for a pluck potential, but he gets pulled in by Susano, taking a lot of damage. But look at this, Chang'e sustaining him back up with the hearts as well.
And the Fire Giant on top of that. The double sustain with the Cupid Fields of Love is very useful. So Share the Love, I should say, will come in handy. But Oxygen are doing a good job of stalling out this Fire Giant. Even if they lose this tier 2 here, Toli, they'd already taken down the middle Phoenix. This isn't doom and gloom. It just closes the gap for Memory of Gabe.
About another minute and 15 seconds for Memory of Gabe to try to get this tier 2 tower, but Sobek getting plucked back in. The knockup onto Whalrus, Fields of Love being used as well. DayToRemeber, nice little petrify, but the pull not really finding anybody.
They didn't find anything there really, Memory of Gabe, but instead Eonic got very low off the back of the ultimate of the final judgment from Venenu. Meditate and sustain will stop Oxygen pushing forward for a second there. They felt like going in for it, but they will hold at the tier 2 once more.
OS still holds, but the fact of the matter remains means that Memory of Gabe having Eonic and Snoopy ult, whereas there's no ults for OS.
Whalrus to the backside, and on the front side, NeiruMah and Kiki zoning away the damage dealers, blocking shots where they can. Snoopy going for damage over the tier 2 tower, changes his mind though, back to the tier 2. Eonic went for the pluck, missed the pluck, lurking in the waters will get him out just about, and the sustain's back into play again.
This could be the goal that they need on the side of OS to counteract the engagement. Skeeledon diving in, but dashing back out. Whalrus still having his ultimate available off of cooldown, but it doesn't seem anyone else wants to aggress.
No, the Phantom came into play from Oxygen there. You can see them all light up because a great Phantom coming out from NeiruMah will stop Memory of Gabe continuing to aggress.
Still holding on to their mid Phoenix, very important now. Fire Giant buffs is basically going to fizzle away now, only for another 3 seconds. Their mid Phoenix is also going to respawn here, and that's going to be the next focus for OS. If Memory of Gabe is just not in position to defend that mid Phoenix, then that's going to be in easy pickings.
Well, I think the dance here for Oxygen should be to contest this Portal Demon and don't give it up for free. But Memory of Gabe are looking to burst it down as quick as they can before Oxygen get themselves in position. They will get the Portal Demon, and this should also allow them to defend that middle Phoenix.
Taking a fight for OS would not be a wise case here because of the fact that with that Portal Demon, you can go in and out of the action, use the heals between Hurriwind and Cynosure, and then, even if you're low enough where you have to back anyway, you could take that portal back into that Fire Giant fight.
Well, I don't think you want to take that portal right now, Tolly. With the position Oxygen are in, they're kind of waiting for someone to come through that portal. Like, come on. Walk through.
I dare you.
Walk through. I bet it'll be Whalrus. Whalrus won't be scared to go through.
He's thinking about
Odin,
he does.
But can they kill him?
Ooh, unfortunately, Kiki did not get off his knockup in time. They were afraid if they overcommitted too many abilities onto Whalrus, then everyone else starts going through those portals, and that's where the team fight swings in Gabe's favor.
Wise idea from Memory of Gabe just to send Whalrus through there. At the same time, Whalrus was very tentative, I would say, like standing at that portal thinking about going through, like, well, this could be awful, but let's find out.
He was considering it, but it paid off. He has the vision now. He has that sentry ward around the backhand side of the Fire Giant. Yana going to miss out the pluck. Whalrus taking a bit of poke there, trying to counter ward.
This is sustain, and sustain on both sides to an extent, but you've got the extra sustain from Chang'e and the Share the Love and the Rod of Asclepius, but there's a blink ring from Whalrus. Immediately Skeeledon will get out. NeiruMah trapped in the ring, but they're not focusing onto him. They went towards Kiki, but Kiki did work. Petrify hit Snoopy's attack to the sky. Good damage on him. Not enough to stun him out, though. He'll return some good poke back to Venenu, but Venenu and Snoopy are trading in the back. NeiruMah rooting out 2 damage dealers on the other side, as Snoopy has already fallen down. Next on the list is Eonic. He's juggled in the air, and the Crocodile will never smile. Hurriwind is running to the right-hand side on his own, and he's going to go down too.
It's a 5-on-2 now for the rest of OS, and this could be their 7th game in a row victory. The respawn timers are so long here that they can actually get this tier 2 on right, the Phoenix on middle here potentially if they want to, and maybe even end the game here. Whalrus and Cynosure, that's not enough damage to really find the kills.
I can feel 2 Phoenixes here. I'm not sure about a game end, but maybe they'll go for it. Whalrus went to the front, pulled it again by NeiruMah! The Phoenix is going to fall. Yes, it'll take a little bit longer thanks to the Odin ring, but not long enough. The middle Phoenix as well, and Oxygen.
This is game. This is game! I'm telling you, NeiruMah, they're going to go for the end here. This is going to be the 7th game in a row that the Challenger Circuit team is beating every single SPL team.
How are they doing this over and over again?
I'm
just chilling like,
I'm just speechless.
What are we doing now?
Even Vinny is just feeling himself right now.
Yeah, the guys in the back there are like, well, what do we do now? I mean, we just keep doing this, right?
Just another standard day for them.
That game was a lot closer than the others, though, Tolly.
Absolutely.
And whether it's stamina taking its toll, whether it's these teams are now being able to scout them even further into this, or it's just a combination of things that are coming together, it's getting tougher and tougher for Oxygen to keep on winning, but they're still winning.
Well, I'll tell you what, Chaos was onto something earlier on when he was talking about just how strong this team is, because they are scrim partners. Before, back in the day, when I was on Team Eager, we were practicing against AFK Gaming all the time, and which helped us out a lot in the Challenger Circuit team. We were able to basically beat out everybody, make it back into the SPL, and then just dominate the scene because of our scrim partners.
Well, you've done the Challenger scene quite a while yourself, right? When you were on Eager back in the day, you guys had to do the whole day's events to try and get back to the Pro League. They're long days. And let's be honest, in one way, Oxygen are kind of used to that from the days gone by. But how long does it take till it really starts to take a toll?
I think that if they lose one game here, I feel like their high is just going to end at this point. All their momentum is going to get shot down, but so far there's just no stopping them. So far that last game was the hardest for them thus far. Memory of Gabe truly gave them a run for their money.
They really, really did give them a run for their money. 1-0 now over to Oxygen. Let's head over to the analyst to break this one down. You just got to find a win, and they're through again.
This is that raw emotion, that realness. I mean, this is the stuff people ask us, you know, commentators from time to time, like, you know, are you up there faking it or whatnot? I'm telling you right now, Hurriwind is that excited. This is out of control. You can't make this stuff up. This is the story that you kind of want when you look at the Gauntlet land. It's just a lot of fun to watch these guys really come up and see what they're able to do. They win that one. I said before that In Memory of Gabe is going to be a different style of competition. This team is, I think, the second level, right? The second level of strength as far as these guys are concerned, and this one was a lot closer. Taco, what do you think the major difference is between In Memory of Gabe and some of the older guys?
Personally, I feel as though In Memory of Gabe are kind of just running off of individual mechanical skill at this point in time. There are always players who have trying to prove themselves through the past seasons and like past splits and everything, and right now is really where they need to try and come together, because personally I think that game was theirs. Like, Whalrus was on the cusp of almost single-handedly carrying his team to a victory. It just fell a little bit short from one bad engagement around the Fire Giant pit, and that is all that Oxygen Supremacy needed to capitalize on.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of, you know, honestly, I think that we saw stuff out of Whalrus, and Hurriwind was playing well, but the two characters they were on left a little to be desired. Coming into game number 2, Chaos, what do you think some of the changes that Gabe need to make is?
I think they need to reconsider the fights that they take or how they're positioning around those fights. I think Whalrus had some incredible cages. I think they took some incredible fights. However, they didn't seem to have the momentum after they took those leads off those fights.
Yeah, just sort of, they got the stuff, but not the stuff after the stuff.
Right.
You know, sometimes this really is just that black and white. One of the big positives was this man right here. He is my most improved player from Season 3 to Season 4, personally. I think that Whalrus has been a pleasure to watch play, a pleasure to watch grow, and even here in this loss, a big pleasure and a big reason why his team was even in it. But again, the Odin kind of falls short and come the late game, and so that large lead, I think it was 3-0-1, if not 4-0-1 at one point, did not translate into the end game.
I mean, just that initial engagement that Whalrus had where he picked up the early double kill was beautiful, to say the least. He had the perfect bird bomb. He had the 4-man execution onto it on top of that, and right here you can see it all, really the beauty of it just lining up perfectly.
And not only he did it with him, he did it by himself, lining up things for Cynosure as well. Here he is towards the Fire Giant trying to make things happen. But again, I need to see Whalrus on those Aquarius style gods. I want to see him on these gods that can actually change the course of a game come 25 minutes. I just don't think Odin's that character.
I don't necessarily dislike the Odin pick here, though. To be completely honest with you, while Chaos brought it up, he said that they lacked a little bit of the follow-up, but they had the Cupid, they had the Sobek. I think that Chaos touched on it the best, and really they just lacked the follow-up. It was there, but they just dropped the ball on it.
I think Whalrus definitely set them up very, very well, and he kept doing it consistently. Yeah. However, I think the rest of the team may have positioned too poorly. I don't know if it was Thoth ults or the Susano engagement. However, they really weren't getting out of those fights alive, even though Whalrus was getting such great engagements.
So Whalrus was able to provide a lot, but for me, the rest of it was, I think you just wrote down in giant letters, duo lane pressure in your notes. That was the story of this game right here. And DayToRemeber, I mean, he's doing his own pressure by himself, but he's getting some help as well. But DayToRemeber, this is his DayToRemeber, absolutely. He's just crushing it, man.
DayToRemeber?
Stop. so to actually point at where she's going, look at his name. It's actually not DayToRemeber. It's DayToRemeber for whatever reason. But you can't make fun of the proof in the pudding when he's doing stuff like that. I mean, that's Snoopy, guys.
You know what I love the most about Day throughout today is he has actually gone from being a little bit quiet, you know, subtly sitting there at his seat, and now every single kill, every single engagement, just non-stop trash talk being spewed from this man's mouth.
Yo, it's my lane. Get out my lane. So